All right, I got to give myself one of those already. So let me do this. I keep forgetting that if I raise this up, you raise me up. No, not that. But when I raise this up like this, the 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 headset mutes. So um, so I was talking there for about 10 seconds and didn't realize that my dumbass was talking with the microphone off. So that's why I gave myself one of those already. So it's going to be one of those nights I can tell already. And got a fun night coming up here. Got a lot of stuff coming up here. The double double in the NFL. I'll tell you what that is. Um, Mahomes doesn't like the schedule. The Jay Z allegations in the NFL. Sports Illustrated Stadium. I'll tell you about that. The Skins game is returning. No, not shirts and skins. And Bronny hits the road. I'll tell you about that because it's about damn time, to quote his dad, it's about damn time he learns what professional sports are like, even if it is minor league like the G League. Um, so I'm also keeping an eye on the football game for you guys. Um, the Rams and 49ers are playing a rain game right now. If I knew it was going to be a rain game, I probably would have played the under because it's 3-0 right now in the second quarter. And yeah, but I didn't play anything today. But hope everybody's doing well out there. I see we're getting some people in the room right now, and we are on both my YouTube and the Bleacher Brothers YouTube, and we're on my Twitch and the Bleacher Brothers X. So, and that's every Monday through Thursday. Saturday we change things up a little bit, but we'll get that all squared away here. So, anyway, so we are in a football weekend. Um, a little light on college, but we still have the pros here, and we got a interesting scenario here this weekend. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, but I was like, that's interesting. You have the Eagles and I almost called them by their name. Remember, they're the team from out west this week. Because they act like they're more of a rival to us. We're their rival. The whole Philly Pittsburgh thing, the inferiority complex of being a smaller city to us, and all that stuff. But we were the birthplace of the nation, so fu team out west and city out west. But um, but um, So I was looking at the schedule with you guys a couple of weeks ago because we were looking at possibilities of flexing games and stuff like that. And the one thing I said was Bills and Lions 425, Eagles and the team out west at 425. So when I was looking through everything, and I didn't look at I don't think I mentioned that one game was going to be on CBS and one was going to be on Fox. So I thought they were both on the same network until I realized there was no bridge game at 405. So um so as a result, you have two very very important games being played at the same time. So be interesting to see how the ratings go for these games. And I mean, we know what's going to be watched in Pennsylvania, both on the better side of the state here, Philadelphia, and the inbred part of the state, that area out west. But you do have two gigantic matchups, and I'm going to say it right now: two, two, two potential Super Bowl matchups. Now, I know everybody's going to be saying, "Well, Buffalo and Detroit is that potential matchup. Well, I would not rule out the Eagles and that team from out west because of the fact that the team out west is 10-3. The Eagles are 11-2. And, the Eagles may not have been as um, expected to be 11-2 this year, especially winning 9 games in a row like they have. Maybe 9-4, 10-3, something like that. At the most 8-5. Um, but I definitely did not expect 11-2, and I definitely did not think that Denver. I'm thinking Denver because of Russell Wilson. I definitely did not think Pittsburgh would be 10-3 at this point. I had them going 8-9 this year, which would have been Mike Tomlin's first losing season in the NFL. But the interesting thing is, that you have a bunch of games at 1, you have a bunch of games at 425, but you don't have any bridge games. There's 405 games that are annoying as hell because let's say that game runs long and the 425 game is an Eagles game and their running game is doing its job and the game's over by 7:05 and there's no other games on the docket. That 405 game, you're screwed if you're not in that market because guess what? In the United States, the red zone does not show the end of that last game. They make you go to that station, which does not pick up that game for you. So, unless you have YouTube TV, which everybody's bitching about because YouTube TV, their prices are going up at the start of next year. So, but I found today accidentally on Facebook on my personal Facebook page why the Bills and Lions and the team out west and the Eagles are both 425 games. The NFL is employing what's called a double header with the hopes of increasing viewership. Well, you're going to be increasing viewership for that 425 window. I can tell you that right now. Be interesting to see what game draws more. And I think it's going to be Buffalo and Detroit because, oh my God, everybody loves Detroit. Well, Detroit, they're not going to the Super Bowl. I'm telling you that right now. They're not going. But so as much as we complained a couple of weeks during the season how the games suck for a particular week, we're definitely not saying that this week. Um, the strength of schedule will be highlighted. The strength of the schedule for this week will be highlighted Sunday afternoon when 4 of the league's top teams face off against each other. The Bills, who are currently the number 2 seed in the AFC, will take on the Detroit Lions, the top seed in the NFC. Curiously, the team out west, Western Pennsylvania, um, they they play the Philadelphia Eagles, who are the number 2 seed in the NFC. That team out west is number 3 in the AFC, and the game in Detroit is on CBS. The Eagles game is on Fox. So, well, the question is, how did this happen? And I think we can blame Tom Brady for this. In a normal NFL Sunday, CBS and Fox will air regional action at 1 o'clock in the 1 o'clock window. Then the two networks switch off who airs the game at 425 in the national window. Typically, that game is of considerable national interest. That's why you see a lot of times games get flexed from 1 to 4, and the early games end up being the 425. The late games become 105, 1 o'clock games, and um, And like the game with the Eagles and the Jaguars, because the Jaguars are so horrible. Um, they didn't get the 425; they got the 405 window, which sucked ass. But um, but and and games that are in the Mountain and Pacific time zones that are not selected for the national window, they're usually on at 405 and they're only shown in limited markets. So when the Eagles and Jaguars went to a regional game, they went from a national game to a game that was only being shown in Philadelphia and Jacksonville and maybe a couple other cities, but not, yeah, the media markets when I say Philly and Jacksonville. So you didn't have much in the way of who was watching. But there are two times a year where the NFL will schedule what is known as a double header, in which both Fox and CBS rare regional action at 1 and a national window game at 425. The networks generally don't love this because it means they're competing with another high wattage game on a different channel. But the NFL sees the double headers an opportunity to juice overall viewership, even if the networks themselves don't quite match the audiences they get in normal weeks. Um, what's different about this week, for example, is that the first week of the double is much later in the season. In past years, the double doubles have been in week 1 and week 18, the first and last weeks of the regular season. This season, the NFL decided to do Fox a favor and give the network a standard national window game in week 1, which happened to be the debut of Tom Brady's broadcasting career. So as a result, they moved week 15 as the double header. So it just happens that it'll feature two of the most intriguing matchups so far this season. And the NFL got very lucky with it because, you know, a team out west could have done crappy. The Eagles could have continued their slide from last year. Uh, Detroit could have bought into their press clippings that we've all seen. All that could have happened. But instead, you got two monster matchups, one on CBS, one on Fox. It'll be interesting to see what they do here. So, and by the way, Tom Brady will be in town this weekend, so um, we'll see how much hate he gets from, or how much he gets reminded of 41-33. But um, now, while the move may have been partly been to do Fox a favor, the league also believes that moving the double headers to later in the season is prudent from a rating standpoint. According to a report by Front Office Sports, the NFL shifted that double header to a much later timing to have a better sense of who the top teams are and in turn potentially drive higher viewership. So it's working out and then some. So a little favor goes into the league's favor because guess what? Got two great matchups coming up this weekend. Um, and also, I believe, and let me pull up the schedule here. Mm. Yeah, so let's say Buffalo and Detroit is a blowout one way or another. They have two games that they can opt into. They can go to Indianapolis at Denver, and they can go to New England at Arizona. If those outside of the Philly and the city out west uh, markets, um, or if that game is a blowout, those outside of the city out west and Philly can go to Tampa Bay Tampa Bay Bucks and LA Chargers. So there is that option if either of those games get out of control. But um, but when you look at this, the country will have the opportunity to choose between two strong games instead of one. In a normal week, it's possible one of these games could have been flexed into prime time to ensure both would go to a national audience, especially at Monday Night Football, airing a less than stellar doubleheader of its own on Week 15. But the doubleheader means that'll happen anyway this week without the need for a flex. Even the Sunday night game isn't that bad, but I was hoping for that to be Eagles to be flexed the Sunday night. But um, now it's interesting to see whether the NFL strategy pays off in the form of demonstrably increased viewership. If so, expect the double header to make a return again late next season. So this is also a test to them. Um, so this I found on Awful Announcing. They give credit to front office sports, so all the credit to those that are involved here. But um, so I was saying, you have two games at 425. Here, there's five games at 425. It's part of the double header, and if you're not in Pennsylvania, you'll still have well those that are those are in those backup games, as I'll call them. Depending on what network you have, you'll still have that other monster matchup on your other network. Whereas, like for example, here I haven't looked up the 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 I haven't looked up the listings for Sunday, but you still will have Detroit and Buffalo on CBS here, and you'll have the Eagles game on Fox. So and when the schedule first came out, I didn't notice it, and I didn't even know it was a double header. Um, but it's a fun thing, and hopefully with the double header, as I will be sitting here watching the game on one TV, probably have Red Zone probably on the laptop because I'm probably going to be doing some work on the computer here on Sunday. Um, you probably will have NFL Red Zone going pretty late on Sunday as well. Um, but that was something that came up, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." Um, so, um, so if you were wondering why the double header, part of it is because they wanted to give Fox that window because of Tom Brady in Week 1, and it is what it is. But it is pouring in San Francisco. Well, Santa Clara. Yeah, I could just say it was San Francisco, but they're about an hour away from San Francisco. I mean, truthfully, they shouldn't even be called the San Francisco 49ers, but it's kind of like Dollar Trees and dollar store, the different dollar stores and Five Below. It went from being an actual dollar store to a corporate entity, instead of, a place where you get stuff for a dollar because everything's a dollar and 15. Uh, Gideon, welcome in. Hope you're having a good night out there. Um, I'm doing good. How are you? So, so yeah, so that's why we have two 425 games on both networks. So it's a double header. Some can say it's because of Tom Brady, and we'll go from there. So, yeah, great. I hope you're having a great night out there wherever you are. We're just going through some of these sports stories here, and just got finished with the double. Um, I stream Monday through Thursday, 9 o'clock. Uh, it's here on Twitch, and I also stream to YouTube, both my YouTube and Bleacher Brothers YouTube and the Bleacher Brothers X. I am part of Bleacher Brothers here, and you know, but I did make an announcement on Monday that I will be and Mike knows my allegiances to my high school, and just coincidence I wore this today because I haven't done any wash in a while, and it's been stacking up. Um, that's chore number 1 or 2 on Saturday once my also eligible show is over, and I also do a show on Saturday mornings. It is on the Bleacher Brothers platforms. Also eligible is my horse racing show, and we look at the races from different tracks around the country. This Saturday, um, I was a little bit disappointed because I was hoping on Saturday, and that's all the information for Bleacher Brothers, for my horse racing show. I was hoping that they would have gone with Turfway Park, but FanDuel, because a lot of the weeks that we've done shows over the last couple of weeks, um, a lot of stuff that I've been doing on my, with those shows. Last couple of months, we've been mirroring what the FanDuel Racing, what they have for their win insurance promotion, and I was hoping to be Turfway, but it's Fairgrounds, so we'll be going with Fairgrounds on Saturday. So, and but what I do to increase your channel, I just do whatever I can. I mean, yeah, I don't take the numbers seriously, and you know, Mike knows this that I'm not about the numbers. I mean, I should be, but I'm not. So that just gives you an idea. So, um, but that's what I do. Um, but we'll see. So I did see this today. I saw it. I saw this story originally on Facebook, and I actually saw that some people were giving him Patrick Mahomes crap because, oh, you make all this money and blah blah blah. And it was a post that was on Fox News on Facebook, and it was just the algorithm that brought it up. Um, but when I saw it, you know, they were doing whatever with it. I don't remember the angle they were going to. Um, right now, I don't have a Discord, Gideon. I don't have a Discord at the moment. I've been trying to do it, but um, I just haven't had time to put it together. It's just me. But we'll see. So, Patrick Mahomes, voiced his displeasure of the way that the schedule was made. And I thought about replying to, or at least posting the post on, um, or at least posting a comment on that post. Because the thing is, the political shitstorm, as I'll call it, it isn't as bad as it was a couple of months ago. And a lot of what I do is, um, a lot of what I do, um, I was looking and, I was like, you know what? I don't want to deal with people giving me a bunch of shit because they're pitching and moaning because it's political and it's Fox News and everything. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to comment because if I comment, somebody's going somebody's gonna give a snide ass remark. I'll give a snide remark back, and next thing you know, you get into a pissing match while I'm working. Now, here's the one thing I would say about Patrick Mahomes here before I get into the story here. Even though you're complaining about it now, which in a way is good because people are paying attention now because it's getting near the end of the season. These games mean more, even though they're just 1/17th of the schedule. Um, you also have people paying attention to the game more because it's that time of the year, and um, you have more eyes on the game. Well, everybody's going to have eyes on Patrick Mahomes because he's won 3 Super Bowls, blah blah blah. Even though he hasn't had that great of a year this year in terms of his individual stats, he's still, the stat that matters the most, which is the wins and loss column, which I mentioned about somebody, and Mike might have seen the post end up on his algorithm because I commented. Um, all my information's on my page, Gideon. Um, so, um, so when you look at everything, you know, playing 3 games in 11 days is pretty tough. And truthfully, a Wednesday game for the NFL is not ideal. And, some of the complaints, even from other players on the team, are legitimate. And I'll get to them here. The Chiefs will be one of the 4 NFL teams embarking on Sunday on a stretch of the schedule that'll have them playing 3 games in 11 days. Um, Patrick Mahomes and his Kansas City teammates are looking forward to it. Obviously so. Um, all you can do is focus on the game and practice that you had that day. I mean, at least he has that mindset. Um, I try to prepare my body all year long for this stretch for tailoring my workouts, tailoring how you practice and you prepare. Coaches do a great job, blah, 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 blah. He said it's not a good feeling. I'm excited to play on Christmas to hopefully get back from what we did last year when the Chiefs lost to the Vegas Raiders. But you never want to play that many games in short of a time. Okay, I get that. So it's not great for your body, but at the end of the day, it's your job, your profession. You have to come to work and do it. Now, if Kansas City was blowing teams out like everybody thinks they should, because they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. And who knows? Maybe it happens this Sunday when they go to Cleveland. And by the way, that's not going to be my. That I do not have that picked as one of my games this week. I don't think. No, I do not. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, you know, the Players Association is about player safety. The NFL says they are, but we know they're really not. They're kind of concerned about concussions because of that lawsuit that was resolved a few years ago and the movie and all that. But in actuality, they're really not. But I mean, that's why they're also trying to go to 18 games because of money, money, money. Um, um, I mean, but the Chiefs, they play the Browns on Sunday in Cleveland. Then they play a Saturday game against the Texans, which I believe it's in Kansas City. And then they play a Wednesday game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That third game is played on Christmas Day. Now, the Steelers, Texans, and Ravens all have that 3 game and 11 game scenario because what the NFL did, they ended up putting those 4 teams that are going to be playing on Christmas Day, they put them on Saturday. So next week we have 2 Saturday games, and those 4 teams will end up playing on Wednesday. And by the way, you have to have Netflix unless you're in that market. So, so Andy Reid said it's a unique situation. You just have to manage it. It is what it is. You make the best of it. One thing is you got to get guys ready for the game, give them the chance to do whatever you present to them. So I'll help them out now. We got a normal week here, so we got to take care of business. So, but the thing is, the Sunday to Saturday part is not bad. It's the Saturday to Wednesday which is bad because it's the it's the body going back to getting back to normalcy. And I'm using finger quotes there because, you know, if you played the whole year, your body is not normal. You're, you know, like they always say, this time of the year, everybody's injured. It's just that some are hurt more than others. They end up on the injury report. Some have nicks and bruises, but nothing that really warrants a mention on the injury report. But here's a legitimate, I think this one that I'm about to mention is a legitimate complaint. And this may be a situation because it's a one time thing, because obviously Christmas is not always on the same day, obviously. Next year it'll be on the Thursday. So you won't have this situation 3 and 11 days. You'll have 3 and 12, but you will have the Sunday Thursday set up. But um, Chris Jones, the defensive tackle, recently complained that the Chiefs will go into the stretch after an early season bye in week 6. It's a longer stretch without a break than any of the other teams that are involved in this troika. Um, the Steelers had their bye in week 9. The Texans and the Ravens had theirs last week in week 14. So you're looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers as, a little bit beyond the halfway, little early, but would they have liked it in week 11, 12 or 13? Yeah. But Kansas City, because they had a late break, a late bye last year, they get an early one this year. So that may be something there. Um, Now, that is the one thing that this offseason I'm going to be going to the NFLPA, according to Chris Jones. especially with us having 3 games in an 11-day span that were mandatory to have a late bye week. Okay, now that is a reasonable request that you make through the Players Association. But also, if the NFL continues to schedule Christmas Day games, which obviously they're going to because this is the third year that they've had these games, or actually the second, well, third, but 2 years ago it was actually 3 games, one 4:30 and 8, which were highlighted games. But the actual Sunday games were actually Christmas Eve on Saturday. Um, but it's a legitimate beef here. Um, uh, he says with the Chiefs schedule, it's kind of awkward to say the least. That a conversation, it's a conversation happening off season. If a team has somewhat of a schedule like that, they should get a late season bye. We don't need a week 6 bye. Give it to us in week 8, week 10, something like that. So he's got a great point there. I will tell you that. He's got a great point, and I'll tell you what. The thing is, it's the first time that they did schedule Wednesday games like this on Christmas. So you do have you do have to work out the kinks on this. So obviously, you're going to have a situation where a team is going to have an early bye and they're actually not happy with everything that's going on. Well, life sucks, but it is a legitimate beef, and but it's something that's only going to come up once every 5 years or so, once every 5 or 6 years, depending on the next time Christmas lands on a Wednesday. Because if it lands on a Tuesday, I don't know what they do because Christmas last year was on a Monday because of leap year this year. But with Thursday and Friday, you know, any other days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we know what they can do. But it's the fact that the NFL does not schedule Tuesday and Wednesday games. You realize that maybe we need to work this out here. And I think this was something that probably should have been brought to the NFLPA's attention when the schedule was being made, because even though it's getting the press now, and I don't know what the press was when they opened up the schedule, or when they announced the schedule. I don't know what the press was, especially in Kansas City, because they had the early buy and everything else. So I don't know what the press was. So whatever happened, happened. But it is a legitimate concern. And especially when you have two teams that are going into this 3 game set off the bye. So, um, so it is legitimate. And, even though you want to say, suck it up, Buttercup, not Buttercup, Buttercup. Um, you do want to just, um, you just want to move on here. I was just checking something here, Mike. That's all. But yeah, like Mike says, it does make sense what I'm saying here. One of the few times I actually do make sense, but you get the idea. So, um, but that is definitely something that may have already been brought up to the Players Association, for what I know, at least from the players. 3 games in 11 days, blah blah blah. But I'm more concerned about the Saturday to Wednesday part, because going from Sunday to Saturday, even though it is a shorter week, teams do that a lot, especially if you have a Monday night game and then you play on Sunday. And Monday to Sunday's worse because you're playing a night game for that first game. Whereas these teams that are playing in, let me go here. Let me look at this up here, which I'm going to regret. Um, Kansas City has a 1 o'clock game. Houston has a 1 o'clock game. Baltimore has a 1 o'clock game, but but Baltimore basically's got a bye week because they're 16.5 point favorites at the Meadowlands against the Giants. And the team out west has a 4:25 game with the Eagles. So, um, you know, I would say that the Monday to Sunday 6 day stretch is worse than a Sunday to Saturday stretch because if you have a Sunday afternoon game like three of these teams do, an early window, then you have a couple extra hours. And sometimes a couple extra hours does make a difference, in my opinion. Um, but you do have everything going on here, and we'll see what's going on there. So, oh, did want to make this one announcement here for those that are watching right now. Um, I did not get the audio out on. I did not get the audio out yet for this week's shows. Monday's show I am not releasing only because there is an echo in there, and and that audio is actually going to be my test uh, my test file because of the fact that um, I'm looking to see if I can find a program that will remove the echoing that's on there. So be a little thing that I'm working on. So it wasn't, just to let you know, Mike, it wasn't that bad of an echo. It was just that it was something that I was seeing when I was just going through like snippets and listening to like 10, 15 seconds of the audio at a time. I'm like, I can't post this. Whereas with the video with just me or an audio with just me on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there is no echo because there's only one person talking on the show. Um, so so there is a so there is um, so there is a little bit of a reason why there's no Tuesday show, and I'll put in the Tuesday notes when I upload them. Tuesday and Wednesday show will be uploaded after the show, and I'll try to get the Thursday show again up tonight. So we'll see what's going on there. So um, now, one thing I will say here as we get back to the sports, um, and Mike says the computer does not like him. It has nothing to do with you. Um, AJ has a problem with this when he is at the world headquarters of Bleacher Brothers in Boynton Beach. At least I think they're in Boynton Beach. Um, the issue is that when you have microphones open like he does, you get that bad echo. Now, the echo has been much better than what we had a few weeks ago. It's just that I noticed it, and I don't think there was anything last Sunday or last the Monday prior. So I gotta tinker. I might have to tinker with things again this weekend. Thankfully, I'm off this weekend. I might be dabbling in the fairgrounds this weekend. I might even dabble with Turfway Park as well, but we'll see. Uh, because the one thing I will tell you guys when we talk gambling, which we will at the end of the show, and also horse racing, when you wager, make sure it's disposable income that you can get away with. Make sure your bills are paid, all that other stuff. If you have a gambling problem, 1-800 gambler. I turn it more into a personal thing and telling you, hey, like I'll even tell you when the new month comes around. I will tell you a lot of times, and sometimes I may not say it, but I will tell you, hey, this is rent week for me. I'm not playing this week, but if I did, these are my games. Or I end up playing a rebet because I'm using their tokens. And I've been red hot on there, and I've been red hot with my Philly Fade over the last 6 weeks. But we'll get to that at the end of the show. But I did want to mention the audio. So they just started the second half in in Santa Clara, where it's 3-3. And it looks like Kaylee Hartung shrunk another 6 inches. Is she the Wicked Witch of the West tonight? I'm melting. I shouldn't say that. She's cute, but but anyways, um, as you know, a lot of stuff is going on with Diddy and all the allegations. I'm gonna call them allegations right now, even though he's in jail, I believe. Um, Apparently, there was new allegations this week that Jay Z was involved, and I'll get into that in a second. But it'll be a vague reference here because it doesn't mention the name. It doesn't go into too much details, thankfully. Um, but Jay Z's name came up this week or last week, within the last week or so. So the one thing to remember is Jay Z and his Rock Nation group, they handled the Super Bowl halftime shows. So Roger Goodell was questioned about this today or yesterday, actually, and he said that um, he said a rape allegation against rapper Jay Z won't impact the league's relationship with Rock Nation. Now, here's a question I have: is he doing the same thing with Jay Z with what they do with, for example, the players when we hear that you know that whatever player that had an incident. The first one that comes to my head is Alvin Kamara when they had the Pro Bowl in Vegas a couple years ago. Um, he ended up punching somebody in the oh Christ, what was that casino? And I usually and when I usually walk around the strip, I usually walk in there and walk right out, only because it's like, okay, well, I can get out of the sun for 15 seconds. Um, Let me pull it up here so I can quote the name of the casino. Um, the Cromwell. Yeah, it used to have another name, but the one thing is, when you walk into the Cromwell and you get blasted by that air machine, whether it's whether it's air or heat, depending on the time of the year. And yes, it does get cold in Vegas. Trust me. I will tell you this: 35 in Vegas is a lot colder than 35 here in Philly. But anyways, um, I don't know what they do with the air in the Cromwell. I don't know if they they try to purify the air or they put a scent in there. It just smells different when you go into the Cromwell. But if you remember a couple of years ago, Alvin Kamara punched a guy in a hotel in the casino's elevator. They were going to the nightclub that's in there, and Kamara did get suspended eventually. So usually, what the league does, at least for the players, is unless it's a serious case where they put them on the restricted list or whatever they call it, the commissioner's list or whatever, they'll let them play until they have to do something with this. So I'm just wondering, maybe Roger Goodell is taking the same stance that he does with the players right now, where we'll wait to see what happens before we do anything. So, But if it's a serious case that they need to put him on a commissioner's list or whatever you want to call it, then they'll do it. But that's what I took out of it. Not necessarily that he's protecting Jay Z and he's not, and that he's protecting the partnership he has with Rock Nation, even though he is. But I'm just wondering, maybe he's like, well, for now, let's see how things play out before I say, Rock Nation, you're out. And, uh, but, um, but Roger Goodell said at the conclusion of the league's winter meetings in Irving, Texas, we're aware of the civil allegations and Jay Z's really strong response to that. We know the litigation is happening now. From our standpoint, our relationship is not changing with them, including our preparations for the next Super Bowl. Now, is next Super Bowl 59 that they're talking about? Are they talking about Super Bowl 60? Who knows? I imagine 59 is what they're looking into because, got to get the got to get the performance ready because the Super Bowl is only 2 months away. But um, now the gist of the story is that a woman who previously sued Sean Diddy Combs, alleging she was raped at an award show after party in 2000 when she was 13 years old, amended the lawsuit on Sunday to include a new allegation that Jay Z was also at the party and participated in the sexual assault. So I'm raising red flags that all of a sudden you're throwing another person in there so late. But, things are different between men and women because, I mean, because, there's so many different things that you have that it's just so, it's such a harrowing thing that happens that, us men can't really describe. And I'm trying to skirt clear of this, no pun intended with using the word skirt there, because, skirt has meanings other than just the dress, but you get the idea. Um, Jay Z, whose real name is Sean Carter, said the rape allegation against him is part of an extortion attempt. And that may be the case, but let's see what happens in court. That's what I will say. Let things happen in court. Um, the 24-time Grammy Award winner called the allegations idiotic and heinous in nature in a statement released by Rock Nation. So, um, but it may be that this is all bullshit, you know. But I can also argue if there's smoke, there's fire, and you know, and also if your girlfriend does smoke after a while, get some lubricant, okay. But anyways, um, but seriously, back to the seriousness of this. The NFL teamed up with Jay Z's Rock Nation in 2019 for events and social activism. Um, the two parties extended their partnership a few months ago. So I think they're getting incredibly comfortable with not just with the Super Bowl, but other events they have advised us on and helped us with. They've been a big help in the social justice area to us on many occasions. They've been great partners. But if these allegations are true, you have to cut ties, I would think. Uh, but Kendrick Lamar will perform the Super Bowl halftime show at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans on February 9th. Um, Now, Beyonce, who's married to Jay Z, she will be performing halftime at the Ravens Texans game on Christmas. So, um, yeah, this is definitely something to keep an eye on because it may happen that if things run their course in the court of law, and they find that these allegations are credible, are they going to do what they do with an NFL player if he gets himself into trouble, like an Alvin Kamara? Um, so many different people. You know, even though I mean, I was listening to a podcast before I started the show tonight. Ray Rice, even though that was long before commissioners list and everything like that. Um, even he got suspended for a couple of games, which obviously wasn't. Um, he got suspended 2 games and it was indefinite, and then legal took over and all that. But I think what the NFL learned from player accountability within the collective bargaining and everything like that, I think they learned that some cases we do have to step in right away, and there are some cases where we need to let the legal system take its course. And I think that's what they're doing here for the most part. I'm sure they've had discussions about this already, and I would not be surprised if you see something in a few months or whenever this is done. Um, and they may be too far in preparations if the allegations are true. That's true as well. Um, or it may be that Jay-Z steps down from Rock Nation, but I don't know. We have to see how this plays out on both on the NFL side, the Rock Nation side, everybody's side. Just because you're looking at, um, um, but we'll see. But I'm just looking to see, um, look to see what happens with this case, because if it's I when they mentioned Jay Z, I didn't necessarily think about the incident, the partnership with the NFL. I forgot all about that. So that was definitely something that was mentioned. Um, that was definitely mentioned the other day, or that was that came up in the news, and I didn't think about it, but anyways, on to the next story here, and a little bit of a sorbet here. You know, Sometimes you get these sorbet stories. Well, Red Bull Stadium is no more, the soccer stadium. And I know you're like, why are you talking soccer? Well, we're not really talking soccer, even though it is a soccer specific stadium. Um, Sports Illustrated, the magazine, is buying the rights to a soccer stadium in New Jersey. Kinda. Red Bull Stadium is going to be renamed Sports Illustrated Stadium, a 25,000 seat venue. They say near Newark. It's in Harrison. And I can tell you from uh, taking New Jersey Transit up to New York City, um, when you go up to Newark and you get to Newark Penn Station, the Prudential Center will be on your left when you approach the arena, when you approach the station. And if you look out to your right, you'll see Red Bull Stadium, which is going to be Sports Illustrated Stadium. But, and the reason why I say sort of, even though the article here does tease it as Sports Illustrated, the magazine, is because the magazine itself has little to do with the the naming rights aside from a shared name. So they did do a bait and switch here. They did some clickbait here that I got guilty of, but it's still an interesting article. Um, and every once in a while, if a stadium's been around long enough, you do have these situations like Acrisure Stadium in that city out western Pennsylvania. Um, Cleveland Brown Stadium was First Energy Stadium. They went back to Cleveland Brown Stadium. Now they're Huntington Bank Field or some shit like that. Some of these some of these stadiums do end up changing names, and sometimes it's through mergers, sometimes it's because the 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 naming rights deal is over. Like, for example, the Staples Center is now crypto.com center, and crypto.com center is the new name for the Staples Center. But that was interesting because the naming rights were up, but nobody went to buy the naming rights, so it was still called the Staples Center. So you did have that, which was um, a little bit of an interesting thing there. So, but but the Sports Illustrated name will be on the home of the New York Red Bulls of Major League Soccer for 13 years, reportedly worth more than $100 million. So about 7 or 8 million a year, maybe nine, whatever whatever the math plays out to. So the magazine itself has been owned since 2019 by Authentic Brands Group. It's a brand management firm that buys well known and often distressed brands and then sells licenses for the use of their names and logos. So, think of it as maybe, um, you know, I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, maybe Sears, even though Sears is, they may buy into that and then they spin off that name into something else, that sort of thing. That's the way that I'm taking it. Um, they've done such things with clothing companies like Barney's and celebrities, including Shaquille O'Neal. Um, Now, among the companies ABG, as Authentic Brands Group is mentioned throughout this article here, has sold SI licenses to its Sports Illustrated tickets, which launched in 2021, and paid ABG a fee to use the magazine's name. In a crowded marketplace, the company thought an association with a well-known brand like Sports Illustrated will help the company against competitors like Ticketmaster and Eventbrite. So, but I'm not familiar with Sports Illustrated tickets. I don't know if they're just um, a conduit to um, the primary market, or they're just secondary market tickets. I'm not familiar with them too much, but I do know that the name did come up every once in a while, but I really hadn't heard much about Sports Illustrated tickets over the last couple of years, at least not much. So the naming rights deal for Sports Illustrated Stadium, and trouble has arrived. But seriously, um, I got distracted here because SJ said hi, and she waved at me too, and Mike says hi back. Um, the naming rights deal for Sports Illustrated Stadium is a sponsorship and business partnership between Sports Illustrated Tickets and the Red Bulls. So the ticket company will also become the exclusive ticketing partner of the team. So um, you go onto the Red Bulls site, you go to schedule, you click on tickets, you'll go into that portal. Digital Sports Illustrated fan covers will be given to visitors, and the stadium will add a Club SI suite area. Um, they're hoping that sports fans still have an affinity for the brand. Perhaps its name on the stadium buys some good publicity for the magazine as well. Um, but the magazine and website is an entirely different business than the brand of Sports Illustrated. Um, but earlier in the year, Minute Media purchased the rights to publish SI in print and online. There was no money changing hands between the editorial operations and Sports Illustrated and soccer team, but over the last decade, just like any other print media, a lot of people lost their jobs when they didn't adapt to digital media. Um, there was all kinds of uh, allegations of artificial intelligence writing articles, but Minute Media has given SI steadier footing in the magazine world. But that's an interesting name change because I guarantee you, when the season comes around, that you do have um, people saying, "Wait, Sports Illustrated is still around?" Other than when we look and we find the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition whenever that comes out, because it used to come out around um, it used to come out around Valentine's Day, but I don't even know what they do anymore because I don't even you don't even see much in the way of magazines anymore. But it'd be interesting to see even how fans react. But one thing I do think that I would be interested in because of my sports management background, and Bank Boy's here. Welcome in, Bank Boy. The one thing I am interested in is how you like when you buy tickets to the Philadelphia Union, New York Red Bulls, NYCFC, LAFC, or any of the other teams. How is their setup going to be different from the rest of the league? And the reason why I say that is at least they used to do it a few years ago. Um, the ticketing, and I think a lot of us are guilty of this from time to time. And I just would let the calls go to voicemail, or like when I went to the Vegas Golden Knights game when I was in Vegas over the Super Bowl. Um, I was getting emails left and right from Vegas. Other than I was actually getting somebody who was actually in the sales department, and I never responded. I should have responded and saying, "Hey, I don't live in Vegas. I live in Philadelphia. It was a one-time thing, and even though I could probably buy season tickets and then just spin them off and make money off of it, I just didn't respond to it. But it was just a one-time thing and let them know that and be like, hey, I don't mind those promotional emails every once in a while because you make it lucky that I'm in town when VGK is in town there. But with the MLS, they used to when we had a sport management class, we were talking about ticketing or whatever class it was that was involved with ticketing I was in. Um, the one thing they said was um, after a while, once you order the tickets, you end up in their caller bank, and they have people that call you selling tickets, and I got a call from one of those numbers, and they were based out of Minnesota at the time. I don't know where they're based out of now, or if they still do this type of thing anymore. But when I got the call, I went to whitepages.com, and then it dawned on me when once the information came up and somebody was put in a complaint there, you know, I ended up getting a call, a telemarketing call in regards to buying tickets to another game or buying tickets to a soccer match. Well, I replied to that person. I said, "Listen, I'm in sports management at my school. That's not that's not necessarily um, a telemarketing call, even though technically it is. If you did not order tickets to a game, you wouldn't have the um, you wouldn't have that call back because they called me a couple of times. So, no, sorry about that. I got a text I finally was expecting to receive. So, um, um, so in terms of that, if you're getting emails from a particular team, you signed up or something. I'm still trying to figure out how I get New Jersey Devil stuff. I think it was because I was looking into one of those sports management nights where it was part job search, part going to the game, part networking. Um, I must have I must have hit something where at least my email got sent in because I get the New Jersey Devil emails every once in a while. But um, and I do apologize. So yeah, so we're yeah, so um, yeah, I texted a guy, my pinch hitter for my show, also eligible. He sent me a text that he couldn't do it on Saturday, but that's okay because I can do different videos and stuff like that. But anyways, going back to finish what I was saying, it's just that you know if you're getting those emails, you were in an email, you ended up on an email list, you get a cold call like that. It's because of the company. It doesn't have anything to do with uh, you know, it isn't a total telemarketing thing like most people think telemarketing is. It is telemarketing per se, but it was a telemarketing because you ordered tickets to the game because especially with the way the MLS was back when I was in the sports management program at Drexel, the sports management thing was um, they did say it was because you did order tickets. And if we didn't order tickets, you're not on the list. So, so, so we'll see. But I'm trying to stop talking because if I talk to my guy Frank here, I'll be talking the rest of the night with him and not talking to you guys. So, but I do want to get on here. Um, so, so I did see that day. It was just one of those interesting stories that aren't really the top notch stories like I had with Jay Z in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes complaining about the schedule and stuff like that. Um, those little things. But like for example, I led off with actually I led off with the double double schedule this weekend. Because I like to do things off the beaten path a little bit and give you guys some fun things to talk about. So, um, but this may be something that SJ might like. I mean, I don't know how much she watches golf. Maybe she gets her friends when she goes onto the golf course. Maybe they have their low stakes game of sorts. Mike might remember this, but the skins game is coming back next year. No, not shirts and skins, but if there's a lucky lady out there somewhere in the universe that wants to play skin on skin, hey, I'm down. But anyways, um, but the skins game is coming back on Thanksgiving weekend next year after a 16-year hiatus. Um, so it's going to be a modern version of the game, at least what the article says. A new golf company called Pro Shop that's led by Full Swing executive producer uh, Chad Mum. On Thursday, announced a deal with the PGA deal that brings back the skins game for the first time since 2008. And Mike sold on ESPN. It was originally back in the old days, and we'll get into that in a second. It was originally on NBC, and Vince Scully was the announcer. Because he had nothing to do after baseball season. I mean, he occasionally did a football game, but um, it's going to be held on Black Friday, um, the Friday after Thanksgiving, in 2025. As an example of a collaboration with the PGA Tour to showcase its best players away from its traditional presentation of golf. Um, still to do, Still to be determined are the meat of the details: who's playing, how much, and where. And now, in case you're not familiar what the skins game is, basically you have four guys. They're playing for high stakes money, and also you got cameras around. So even though it's high stakes, you're still joking around with cameras around and microphones and all that stuff. And you're the only four guys on the course. And the way it works is it's kind of like a modified match game. And if if two or more people tie for the best score or halve the hole, as they call it, then the whole group halves, and the money from that hole goes into the next hole. So it's very possible you halve the hole 17 times and you go to the 18th hole and the whole pot of money is on that 18th hole. But you do have times where, okay, well, I hit a hole in one in hole three. Best you can do is a two. I get it. So, but that's how the skins game used to work back in the old days, and it was a part of the cornerstone of what was known as the silly season in golf. It began in 1983 with Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Tom Watson, and Gary Player, and it was held over Thanksgiving weekend in the California desert. Um, and I think the way that they used to do it, at least in the early days, the first six holes would be $30,000 each, and then you would have $60,000 for 7 through 12, and then $100,000 for 13 through 18. And you just continue playing and continue playing 18 holes. They would break the show over 2 days, whether they did it live or did it over um, 2 different days, or they just broke it up into a show and they just said, "Don't tell anybody." But I think with the way that social media is now, with the way it is, and not really being around during the first run of the skins game, that maybe they had to do it all in one day. But you can probably put it on Golf Channel because NBC uh, carries 99% of the golf tournaments, or so it seems. But um, but um, but interest began to wane over the years, even with Tiger Woods making occasional appearances. The last skins game was in 2008. It lost its title sponsor, and the 2009 event was canceled. By then, the PGA Tour had gone to a wraparound season with official tournaments beginning held right up until Thanksgiving. So instead now they are going to have that on Thanksgiving weekend. Um, so maybe worth maybe worth a watch, or if if SJ's on the course and you know somebody mentions a skins game to her, it's on golf. It's not hey baby let's get naked. It's hey, this is how the game works. Whoever wins the hole wins X amount of money, even if it's low stakes like $1 or 10 or whatever you feel comfortable playing at. or you just play for shits and giggles, like I get what SJ does when I see her posts when she shows herself on the golf course or whatever. So, but but that's how the skins games work. For me and Mike, the old curmudgeons, we have that coming back. Uh, have that coming back next year. One more story before we get to the fade here. Uh, Dad may be on hiatus from the team, but he might be saying it's about damn time. It may be about damn time that Bronny hits the road. What do I mean by that? Well, Bronny James will travel, or he traveled today, or at least we think he did, because things can change like that. Uh, he was traveling with the South Bay Lakers to make his road G League debut on Thursday against the Valley Suns in Tempe, Arizona, what sources told ESPN. Um, the number 55 pick in the draft played in 3 games in the G League, all at home. He's averaging 8.7 points per game on 29.4% shooting, 3 rebounds, and 2.9 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. His last game, he scored 16 points on 6 of 15 shooting with 4 rebounds and 2 assists in 22 minutes in a win over the San Diego Clippers on Saturday. Now, SJ might not remember this, might not even remember this. Isn't it a little bit of an insult that the LA Clippers had their G League team in San Diego? Because if you remember, the Clippers, before going to LA, were in San Diego. And before then, they were in Buffalo as the Buffalo Braves. So, I mean, I just found it a little funny that the San Diego Clippers name is back, even though it's a minor league team, the G League team, um, as opposed to the NBA, the NBA team that moved to LA. So I thought that was a weird but interesting point I wanted to make with that. But more about this. Um, but James had been out recently for several weeks dealing with a bone bruise in his left heel. Part of the concern was that the injury was on the same leg that required left knee surgery to repair a torn meniscus when he was in high school. Um, um, and of course, they say we're going to do what's best for his development and blah blah blah. Bullshit. Um, there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to do for all the assignment players and decisions based on what they are based on the injury status. Um, Now the Lakers don't play until Friday on the road against Minnesota Timberwolves, so Bronny could conceivably play in Tempe tonight and then join the LA Lakers in Minneapolis on Friday. But LeBron missed Wednesday's practice because of personal reasons, uh, according to JJ Redick. And one of the things that I was hearing about that was that it's because his stats aren't what they were, and I think Father Time is starting to catch up with LeBron, and all the money he's spent and stuff like that, getting fit and all that. I think Father Time is trying to beat all the science stuff that he's been doing. Um, so so we'll see. You know, you know, we'll see if Bronny ends up in with the LA Lakers tomorrow in Minnesota. I think that I don't think you would expose him to travel like that, where you go from uh, Tucson to Minneapolis because Tucson isn't that big of an airport, or it shouldn't be. I mean, it's not that big of a city compared to Phoenix, but but I guess if you're going to make him an NBA player, but I would think that if the Friday game was at home, maybe, but I don't think Minnesota. But enough about that. Anyways, let's get to the Philly fade, and I will warn you. Contents are, according to Dan Patrick and Fuego. Last week I went 7-1. Let me pull this up here. I'm actually pulling up two different things here. So I'm pulling up the spreadsheet here, and Puka Nakua goes deep, and he's down at the 16-yard line. So Rams are looking to take the lead here in a 6-6 game. So I'm going to show my screen here. I'm going to show you the spreadsheet here. Um, and yes, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Don't worry. Where's it at? As you can see, the hot streak continues. November, I was 21-12. So far in December, 7-2. Was 7-1 off of last Thursday's show. The only loss I had was the Tennessee Titans. Had a couple of money line bets that were winners. Had Boise State, had Army, had Oregon, had Clemson. If you were brave enough to play that in a 14 parlay, you made some good fucking money. Um, I think it was like plus 1,300 when I did the video. Then in the pros, I had Miami. Now, here's the funny thing with Miami. I played that on FanDuel on Sunday at -6.5. With the Philly fade, I won, but with my real live wager was a loss. But we did have the Chargers. We did have Carolina. I told you that was a trap game with the Eagles, and Tennessee was our only loss. So we are 7-2 so far this month. November, we went 21-12. We have made up. Hold on. So we have made up 18 units in the last 5 or 6 weeks. So yeah, I've been on fire, and um, hopefully the firemen don't come to douse the flames. At least not for another week. Now I have to get a little bit creative this week because you only have one FBS game. We're going to go a little lighter than we were last week. Last week we had 8 games. I'm only going with 6 here this weekend, but I'm going to go a little bit different here. And the Rams are up 9-6 with 9 minutes left in the game. So we did not touch that game, thank God. But let's get to the Philly fade here on this Thursday night, and let's see if we can get back to a profit for the count since I brought this back in August, which I thought would never been possible when I was down 21, 22 units, whatever it was. So we are going to begin off the beaten path. We are going to the FCS playoffs, which is the old 1AA. And this is not a revenge. This is not a Philly sports fan pissed off because Incarnate Word, which is in San Antonio, Texas, knocked out the Villanova Wildcats, which is right outside of Philadelphia. I am doing this because the forecast for South Dakota State, which is in Brookings, South Dakota, is for weather in the 20s. No snow, but it's going to be cold. It's in the 60s in San Antonio where Incarnate Word is. Now, I am going to go. Oh, I have to do this, don't I, dumbass? So I am going to go with my first pick here, and I am going to go with the cold weathered school on a cold weather day in the playoffs. And I am going with, once I get the tab back up here so I can pick it, I am going with South Dakota State minus 19 at minus 110. South Dakota State, um, um, South Dakota State has won the last two national championships. They won last year 23-3 over Montana. They won in 22. They won 45-21 over um, over North Dakota State. So they've won two in a row. Um, it's a possibility that they could win their third here. They get a team that's going to be going into the ice box, and you know I think we're going to see a situation kind of like when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would always go north and you would hear that the temperature is under 40 degrees and oh, it's under 40 degrees. Tampa Bay's never won in cold weather. They finally did and they won a Super Bowl. Um, in this case, Incarnate Word, they're fairly new to the football world, and I don't think they're used to playing in the cold at all. Whether it's this group of players this year or basically the entire football program. So I will take South Dakota State all day here, minus 19 at minus 110. I think this could be an absolute blowout, and it is the early game that is on. That is actually on ESPN, I believe, on Saturday. Then we're going to go to the Army Navy game. And I'm going to use my platform to say if I were to run for mayor in the city of Philadelphia, one of my platforms is going to be that the Army Navy game will always be in Philadelphia. It is a crime that the last mayor of Philadelphia, Jim Kenney, at least if it was him, might have been Michael Nutter, whoever it was, allowed the Army Navy game, which is a Philadelphia staple, to not be held in Philadelphia for 4 straight years. That is a disgrace, and that should have been grounds for impeachment. But I have no idea what she's talking about there. But anyway, so, um, but Army and Navy, Army won the conference last week. They play Navy. They are a conference rival, but this game does not count on the standings, obviously, because the conference season is over. These two teams will play every year, but it'll just be a non-conference game. And if they do end up that, um, if it does end up that Army and Navy finish 1-2 in the AAC, they would play twice. They would play the conference championship game, and then they would play the Army Navy game as scheduled. So, but Army's coming in here. I don't think they're going to be affected by the fact that um, they did not get into the playoff. You know, they would have been in if they beat Notre Dame, but they lost um, a tough. They got blown out by Notre Dame. So, but enough about that. But um, the one thing I will say is the trend over the last few years has been that you bet the under on this game. Um, Let me see this from last year. Is this article from last year? 2 years ago. Um, Oops. I'm just checking one thing here. Um, uh, in 2022, or was it 2023? 2022, the game went over. The game had to go to overtime for that to be over. Let me just check one last thing here, because 9 of the last 10 years, I believe, the game has gone under. But let me go here. Schedule. And this is the work that I do from time to time. Um, okay. Last year, the game was under. The game was 28 and a half. The over under was 28 and a half, and the total was 28. And there was a safety at the end of the game that made it 17 to 11. Um, I'm going to buck the trend of the under here. I'm going to take the over here, which is actually a huge number, 39. I think that this is going to be uh, a high scoring game, especially for Army Navy standards. I'm going to go over 39 at minus 110 here. So those are my two college picks for the weekend. I'm going to go with South Dakota State, an FBS school. And I'm getting this ready here because I always post this on SJ's betting area. Um, so my two college picks this week, and like I said, I really had to stretch to get some college games in there. Um, South Dakota State minus 19 over Incarnate Word. And I'm going to go over on Army Navy. I'm going to take a swing at that for this week, uh, thinking that maybe we'll get an over there. So those are my two college picks. Then we get to the National Football League here, and hopefully we continue our hot streak. Um, and I can clear this out because I got the information there. Rams are up 9-6, and they got the ball back on an interception. So I could go for the low hanging fruit here and go Ravens minus 16 and a half, but I'm not going to touch that game. Um, but anyways, let's get to it here. Um, First game I see is the Jets and the Jaguars. And these are two teams that have disappointed mightily. And one coach is already gone, Robert Saleh. Um, Doug Peterson, he's hanging on for dear life, even though he's gone at the end of the year. We know that's going to happen. But I will tell you this, Jets find new ways to lose every week, or so it seems. They lost in overtime to Miami last week. Um, even though you got Mac Jones starting and, Jacksonville's a shit show unto itself as well. I'm going to take Jacksonville. I'm going to take the money line. I think Jacksonville wins this game outright. So we'll go Jacksonville plus 140 on the money line. Um, then we're going to skip the Eagles game versus the team out west. Denver takes on Indianapolis. Denver comes off the bye. Um, and I think Denver, they're primed to get a playoff berth here. Indy, They're back and forth. Anthony Richardson could cause trouble for the Denver defense, but I think this is all Denver here. I'll take Denver -4.5 at -108. Then we're going to go to the Sunday night game. And let me just check one thing here. Um, um, and this may be a misleading stat because you don't necessarily play every year, but there was a case where um, Green Bay did go to Seattle. Actually, this appears to be Green Bay's first trip to Seattle since 2018, if this is right. Um, but Green Bay has not won in Seattle since 2008. They lost in 2012, 14-12. They lost 36-16 to the Seahawks in 2014, which was the start of the regular season. They lost in overtime 28-22 in the NFC Championship game, if you remember. Um, and then Green Bay lost 27-24 to the Seahawks on that Monday night game. Was that the Monday night game? Or am I confusing that with? But either way, they have Green Bay has lost 4 or 5 in a row in Seattle, and you know what? I think that trend continues here. I'm going to take Seattle on the money line at +114 here. Don't play the 2.5. Play the +114. Seattle wins this game outright. And then we go to Lincoln Financial Field for the main event of the weekend. Eagles and that team out west. At least I'm calling them that this week, even though I've slipped that nickname in a couple of times this week. Um, Eagles come in off of a lackluster performance uh, against Carolina, which I expected. That team out west comes east, where they have not won in Philadelphia since 1965. Now, granted, once the NFL AFL merger came about, and excuse me, and you also had you know Pittsburgh moved to the AFC. I'm sorry, the team out west went to the AFC. Those matchups became fewer and farther between. So, but a lot of turmoil or alleged turmoil because the Eagles' passing game was not up to snuff against the Carolina Panthers. But the one thing I said it in a Facebook chat or group today. I said I couldn't give a rat's ass if Jalen Hurts throws for 500 yards or just 5. The stat that I'm worried about is the W at the end of the day. Now, is the passing game a problem? Yes. Are they going to have to get a little bit more creative with the passing game with this team from out western Pennsylvania coming to town? Yes. Will they will they pass for more yards this week than last week? I think so. I think any person would say that. Now, the line's a little high at 5.5, but I think that the I think that the defense will crack down a little bit. The offense will get back on track, and I think the Eagles are going to win this. They'll win a franchise record 10th game in a row, and we'll take the Eagles at -108. That's 5.5 points on that game. So my NFL picks: Jacksonville money line +140, Denver -4.5 at -108. Seattle money line +114. And the Eagles -5.5 at -108. And if you're daring enough to take this as a 14 parlay, it's plus 1805. I'm not playing it as a parlay. If I play these at all, it'll just be singles. So those are my picks for the weekends. Uh, Bills and Lions, and yeah, we talked about those games earlier today, SJ, because we had the double double weekend here this weekend. Usually it's week 1 and week 18 where we have double headers both on CBS and Fox, but because part of it was because of Tom Brady's first game, they decided to push it back to week 15. So, um, and I think this may be a good mechanism that they use in the future. I lean Lions on that game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo bounces back and actually wins that game outright this weekend. But it's not one of my 4 picks for the NFL for this weekend. So, um, I'm looking. We'll see what happens with these 4 games, and you know, so just also want to remind you that Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, another edition of Also Eligible. I'll be looking at the races from the fairgrounds in New Orleans. Yeah, some game is in New Orleans in about 2 months, right? But we'll be looking at the races from the fairgrounds. I'll nail down the races that I'll be looking at tomorrow. Tomorrow night is the Springboard Mile at Remington. I will be writing about that tonight as well. So I got a busy night ahead of me between the horses, my article. Um, um, Sign me up. So, well, it helps if so that'll be Saturday morning, 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern. I'll be flying solo, and which means I may be showing a couple of horse racing videos. Showing you like, well, this horse. Well, if you see here, that sort of thing. So, but if we have an opportunity to do that, I will. And if not, then so be it. But it's 10 a.m. It's on all the Bleacher Brothers platforms, and we'll do it live Saturday morning at 10 a.m. I'll be caffeinated by then, uh, and we'll go from there. So I don't know why it does that, but it does. So anyway, oh, I know why I did that, but so that is going to be it on this Thursday night edition of the show. Um, and we will do it live Saturday morning with Also Eligible. And next week is my last week of 2024. We will do it live Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. And then I'll do my Christmas break in terms of streaming. I'll still do my articles, but I'll even have a couple of also eligibles in there. But in terms of the Joe Quill show, after next week's 4 shows, we'll have a bit of a break there before the new year. So, but I do appreciate everybody coming in, Mike, SJ, Bank Boy. Um, which reminds me, let me do one thing here. Um, Mike, just to let you know, because we had that person Gideon here that was asking way too many questions. That was an account that was created 7 hours ago, so I just banned his ass. So, um, it's probably trying to get some information out of me, and I wasn't giving enough information for him, and he eventually left. So, but he gone. So, Mike, Bank, SJ, everybody watching on YouTube and on X, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. We'll do it live again tomorrow, not tomorrow night, Saturday morning, and we'll go from there. Um, so we'll do it live then, and do appreciate everybody for joining me throughout the week. And go Rams, because every time the Niners lose, an angel gets her wings. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you in the winner's circle, and we'll do it on Saturday. And if not Saturday, Monday night. So have a great night, everybody, and I will see you later.